Let's bring in Sara Khan, co-founder of the counter-terrorism organisation Inspire, author of a new book called The Battle for British Islam. Sara, as that interview was being played out, there are BBC 5 Live listeners getting in touch who aren't convinced that this lady and her friend should be considered victims.
Well, I think we have to be very careful and take them all on a case-by-case scenario. I mean, when we're talking about young children, I've worked with young girls who have been radicalised. What we found is that they are being groomed online, very similar to sexual grooming online, by older men, by older women who prey on their vulnerabilities. And I think we should treat them slightly different to adults who know full well what they're doing, who have made that decision to leave the UK, who have expressed hatred for the West and who have left the UK for ISIS. I have absolutely no sympathy for these people. I would not really want to see them come back to the UK. And so I can understand your listeners' concerns, but I think when we're talking about children, we need to understand children and how it's similar it is to sexual grooming in terms of radicalisation online.
Whether there is a difference in age of the people who then choose to leave this country or not, how difficult is it more broadly to negotiate your Muslim faith with living in a secular country in the West?
Well, I think, if we look at most of the surveys in this country, the vast, overwhelming majority of Muslims in this country are very patriotic. Survey after survey, poll after poll has shown that the overwhelming majority of British Muslims are proud to be British. Now, we know that at the end of the day, it's a small minority of Muslims who show any allegiance to extremist terrorist organisations like ISIS. We are talking about a minority. But that does not deflect away from the reality, which is that there are Islamist extremist groups operating in this country who promote the idea that Islam is fundamentally at odds with British society, that as a Muslim you cannot believe in democracy, secularism, that we must oppose human rights. And so, for example, the work of my organisation, Inspire, we are very much at the forefront of promoting the idea that no, as a Muslim, I feel very comfortable in my identity as a Muslim, but also as somebody who is a human rights activist, who advocates for women's equality, who believes in a secular democracy, and who will do all that we can to promote and protect our secular democracy. And I think it's that struggle that's taking place within British Muslim communities now, and it's very much the case where it is, as my book really describes it, as a battle for British Islam.
And there are so many players involved in this, and we touched on a few there. And I think it's very interesting to hear Roshnara talk about the soul-searching that's going on within the communities and the families of these girls in particular in her area. But also, there is this propaganda message from Daesh, which is taking quite a powerful line, isn't there? How has it changed recently?
I think what's really important to understand is that we just cannot appreciate the extent, the reach and influence of Daesh propaganda. There was a report out just a few weeks ago that very much highlighted the fact that there are hundreds of thousands of extremist websites online, readily available, which, if you put into a Google search engine, you'll automatically have them come in front of you. And this could be where, young people are looking and seeing what's happening in Syria, feeling very disturbed, seeing the violence that's happening in Syria. They might just put in Syria, and they will be bombarded with extremist websites online, masquerading as kind of mainstream Islam when it's anything but. And that presents a huge challenge, because if as a young Muslim you have a very superficial understanding of Islam, you cannot recognise the difference between Islamist extremism and mainstream Islam. You are more likely to be vulnerable to extremist propaganda, and this is something that a lot of extremist organisations and ISIS, for example, are very good at exploiting, the fact that you've got a lot of young Muslims in this country who do not have a good understanding of Islam, and it's that which makes them particularly vulnerable to ISIS propaganda.
OK, so then you throw in another party to this, and that would be the government and the PREVENT strategy, this flagship anti-radicalisation strategy, which hasn't gone down well in some quarters. Some people saying that this isn't actually going to make anyone safer. All it's doing is demonising Muslims and eroding any trust that there is. What do you think can be done there?
Well, I think we really do underestimate and undermine the actual amazing work that PREVENT is currently doing. I mean, we know, for example, recently that the government have said that around 150 attempted journeys from UK to Syria were disrupted by PREVENT. We know that PREVENT has prevented 50 children from travelling to Syria. We don't often talk about these cases, but these are realities. These are the successes of Prevent. Again, I know a number of Muslim parents who have referred their own children to Prevent because they know their children have been exposed and are promoting radical and worrying extreme views, glorifying terrorism. And so what they've done is they've referred their children to Prevent because they know that their children need help. So I think we have to be very careful about the assumption that all Muslims in this country oppose Prevent. I know many Muslim organisations who are absolutely in support of Prevent. And then again, and also understanding that there are a lot of myths and factual untruths being peddled about Prevent. The idea that Prevent is about the criminalisation of Islam or Muslims in this country, that it's about silencing debate, or it's about spying on Muslims. This is not what Prevent is about. And these kind of myths only help to undermine the important counter-radicalisation, particularly at a time when we know the threat level to this country is severe.
Will all of these tactics have any success? Again, I'm just going to refer to some of the BBC 5 Live texters who are wondering why they should care about cases like the one we're talking about.
Well, I think it's very important that we do care because, for me, the work about Prevent is very important because it's not just about preventing people from going to join ISIS. It's about preventing people from committing acts of terror in this country. Acts of terrorism are indiscriminate. They will attack me whether I'm a Muslim or whether you're a non-Muslim, if you're black or white, young or old, male or female. So the importance of preventing terrorism is an absolute priority for all of us. And, just as an organisation, we've done so much work in terms of working with young people, preventing people from being drawn into extreme ideas, working and producing counter-narrative videos and messaging which have been watched thousands of times. And we know that work has been having an impact. And so for us, as somebody as a Muslim who does this kind of what I would really like to see is a British society supporting organisations like mine in the effort that we're doing to try and not only prevent terrorism, but to really protect British society and for the shared values that we all stand for.
Thank you very much, Sara Khan, who's a co-founder of the counter-extremism organisation Inspire, talking about the belief that one of the 3 teenage girls from London who travelled to the Middle East to join IS militants in Syria is believed to have been killed.